Hey, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. Tonight I'm going to do something that some of you have been asking for a while. I'll run into you in the grocery store and you'll say, when are you going to do a show on quiche? So tonight I'm doing 3 different recipes and actually using 3 different pans and 3 different pie crusts. So I'm going to begin with a springform pan with the crust that we're going to make right here in this food processor. Then the second recipe has fresh peas and Gruyere cheese in it, and I'm going to use a crust that you buy in the frozen food department, and you roll it out and put it in the pan. And then finally, I'm going to give you the recipe for that cheese that I used to serve at the VeryVera Cafe, the 4-cheese quiche, and it's like your little basic black dress. We're going to put all kinds of toppings on it. So all 3 recipes are going to be a lot of fun, and this is something that you can serve for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So let's get started on the one that I'm going to do in the springform pan. I've got a cup and 3/4 of white lily flour in the food processor. I put a teaspoon of coarse salt. And now, prior to the show, I went ahead and cubed my unsalted butter so that it's really good and cold. And we're just going to start adding the butter in a little bit at a time. And that's just going to kind of incorporate into the flour. What we're looking for is a nice coarse look to the flour, and this is just so easy to do. And what we're going to hopefully have at the end is you getting to decide which one of these quiche crusts you like the best. And the reason we're using unsalted butter is that it really incorporates well into the flour, and you don't want the crust to be too salty. Used a little bit of kosher salt in with the flour, but that's working just perfectly now. We're almost there. And the white lily flour is a good choice because it's light, and you want this to be almost like shortbread. All right, last 4 pieces. And then the next thing we're going to add to this is a whole egg, and then an egg yolk, and then 3 tablespoons of ice water. So let's get that incorporated. You see how easy this is? Everybody thinks pie crust is hard to make. So what we want to do here is get it to spin around just until it has formed a dough. And see, there it is. All right. Now, I mean, it's just in the perfect shape. We can't do anything with it right this second because we're going to let it refrigerate for about 30 minutes, but don't worry, I did one ahead. So I'm going to get this one out, get it in the refrigerator for later. I mean, there's hardly any mess to that. And this is just going to wrap up. I'll put it in the fridge and then take out the one that I made before. All right, so now this is the fun part. This is the part the kids love when you throw the flour all over the counter. But you want this to be just pliable, which this is. And I'm going to dust the counter with just a little bit of flour. And we're going to make this in the large springform pan. But the ones I made ahead, I did in a little bit smaller pan, so that I could give one away. So it's always fun when you're making a casserole if you can make a second one just to have in the freezer for later or to give to somebody that maybe needs a special meal, or you just want to do something nice for somebody. All right, so when I'm using my rolling pin, I love to just make sure that the flour is incorporated on the bottom so it won't stick. And then this is the pan that I'm using, so I want it to be just a little bit bigger than the actual pan. So it's going to be about 1/4 of an inch in thickness. All right, so now I'm just going to take it, and it's just coming away so beautifully from the table. And I'm going to take my pan, I want to lift it up, and I want to put it halfway down. And it's so nice and pliable that you really don't have to worry about tearing it. And if you do, you can just kind of mend it as you go. So what you want to do is kind of take your hands and start to make sure that it's adhering to the sides. So now at this point, just make sure that it's evenly in the pan really well. I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to go around the edge. I'm going to take my parchment paper and just put it way flat down in the inside. I want to put it on a sheet pan. That's going to go in a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to make the yummy filling to go inside. So come back with us in just a few minutes. Hey, welcome back, and if you're just joining us, I'm doing quiche tonight, and you know, it's always been one of my favorite foods, great for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So while we were gone during the break, I went ahead and got the pie crust out of the oven, nice and golden brown, and then I also went ahead and mixed up the filling. It's 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream, 1.5 cups of whole milk, 6 eggs, a little bit of freshly ground, and I used 3 color pepper, and then some kosher salt. So now I've got this all mixed up, and I'm just going to pour this in the prepared pie shell. This is going to be one of those super tall quiches. All right, so there's that. Now, in this, we're going to put bacon, and you cannot go wrong with that as an ingredient, especially if you want the guys to eat it. So I went ahead and pre-cooked the bacon, and this is probably about 8 strips of bacon. So just evenly distribute that throughout. All right, then I've got some scallions, and this is 2 scallions that I just chopped up, and I did some of the green as well. All right, and then I took the ends, and this is one way that you can kind of decorate, is to take some of these longer pieces that I just kind of cut with my knife. And really, it's just so fresh looking. It'll look beautiful when it comes out of the oven, and then of course when you slice it. So I'm going to leave some of these to use for garnish at the end. And then finally, let's dress it up with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. This is about 1/2 cup. And now I've reduced the oven temperature to 375 from 400. And now I'm going to put this back in the oven for about an hour. All right, let's get started on the next one. And this time we're going to use a pie crust that's already been prepared for you. So these are the ones that you just pick up in the frozen food department. And one of the things I like to always recommend is that you look at that expiration date on there, because the last thing you want is one that's been there too long. It's not going to be as pliable as this, but even though it seems to be pliable, you really have to take your time unfolding it. So don't get in a hurry with it. When it starts sticking, just very, very carefully pull it away so you don't have holes in it when you get ready. And this is a traditional quiche pan that I'm using, but the one that I did ahead, I put in a deep dish pie pan. So it really doesn't matter, but this is going to be your second opportunity to decide which one of these crusts you like the best. And I actually really like the pre-made crust, but there's nothing like one you make from scratch. All right, so let's put this in the pan. And then this has the little crimped marks already there for you. If I had wanted to roll it a little bit thinner, then I could have gone over the edge with it, but I'm just going to let the fluted sides be my guide, and just take my finger and make sure I've mashed it against each of those flutes. And then I want to press down any place where it possibly tore when I was doing it. All right, so that's ready to go. And on this one, you're going to do it directly into the raw crust. So I've got heavy cream. This one I'm using 4 whole eggs. And let's whip that together. And I love to use the large eggs on this. I actually have a friend that's recently been bringing me fresh eggs from her farm, and there is nothing like it. They weigh a ton. All right, some fresh peas, and you can use the frozen peas as well. And then I've got Gruyere cheese that I love to use in quiche. And then a few scallions. All right, so now this is ready to pour directly into that pie shell. So come back with me after the break. I'm going to divulge that 4-cheese quiche recipe that I've been holding very close to my heart. It's going to be featured in my next cookbook. So I want you to come back and join me while we get that last one together.
Setting a pretty place setting is so important, but it's also important to make sure you do it properly. The things that go on the right side of the plate are the knives, spoons, and all of your glassware. Always make sure your knife blade is facing the plate. Make sure your wine glass is above the spoons and your water goblet above the knife. Your coffee cup can go to the right because you're going to use that with the dessert. The left side of the plate is your forks and all of your other plates. So your dinner fork goes closest to the plate. The salad fork goes to the outside because you'll use that first. And then if you're having a dessert that requires a fork, you want to make sure that the handle faces left with all of those other serving pieces. The bread and butter plate goes to the left. The salad plate goes to the left. If you prefer to have that as the first course, you can have it in the center of the plate. So enjoy setting a pretty table and have a wonderful dinner party.
Welcome back, and you know what? I'm getting ready to give out a big secret. You know, and I don't like to do that, but this is my 4-cheese quiche that we used to serve in the cafe, and actually this was part of our Gourmet to Go line that shipped all over the United States. So it froze beautifully, it shipped beautifully, and I want you to try it at home. So one of the things I love to do when I'm doing a quiche or anything with a milk mixture, if the mixture is not real big in volume, to use this as my bowl, and then it becomes my pitcher when I get ready to pour it. So while we were gone during the break, I went ahead and pricked the sides of my pie crust with a fork, put it in a 375-degree oven for 5 minutes. Now it's ready to go, and I'm going to add my heavy cream, and then I have 5 eggs, 5 large whole eggs. And this is where one of those smaller whisks come in really handy, because you can use that to mix all that together in this Pyrex pitcher, which really makes it convenient for cleanup and also for pouring and make sure you get it all in the pan. All right, so this is pretty well mixed together, and this is a really nice custard with the heavy cream. So these are our 4 cheeses. I've got mozzarella, and I'm just going to start layering this in my prepared pan. And this is a 1/2 cup of each. Swiss. So goes the name 4-cheese quiche. All right, then cheddar, and I like to use a sharp. And this quiche just puffs up so pretty when it comes out of the oven. Unfortunately, it does shrink a little bit, but all your toppings that you're going to use on it will make up for that. And then ricotta cheese is the last one, and you want to just kind of dollop that around. Then you can take your spatula and distribute it all the way around. So we had mozzarella, Swiss, sharp cheddar, ricotta, and I used a 1/2 cup of each. All righty. Now I'm going to do a little bit of freshly ground pepper in the custard, about a teaspoon of kosher salt, Now this is ready to be poured on. And this too is going in a 375-degree oven for about 45 minutes. All right, so come back with me after the break. All these quiches have got this kitchen smelling fantastic. We're gonna put these on plates. I'm gonna show you how to garnish and give you some tips on reheating quiche that you've already prepared. So come back with us in just a few minutes. Welcome back, and I am so excited about these quiche tonight. You know, it's been quite a while since I got in the kitchen and did this many different types of quiche. I probably have never done that many at one time. But while we were away during the break, I went ahead and got started on white sauce. You know, melted my butter, incorporated the flour, slowly added the cream to it. And while that was cooking to get kind of thick, I put a little olive oil in my skillet with some garlic and sauteed my spinach until it was just barely wilted, because I don't like it. I like it to still have a little bit of life to it. Went back to the white sauce, nice and thick. I added some lump crab, a little bit of lemon zest, and some white wine. And then I got some apples going, some scalloped apples, and grated a little bit of cheddar cheese. So now it's time to plate everything and see how it turned out and what we're gonna do with it. So here is the quiche that we did in the springform pan. And you know, I said earlier that I did 2 small pans. And the trick is, if you want to get it baked ahead, the microwave is your friend. Honestly, you can see that this is still just as light and fluffy as it was when it first came out of the oven. So that whole quiche I zapped in the microwave for about a minute. And now I'm going to take it and put it on a bed of mixed greens. And at this point, it can be piping hot or it can just be at room temperature. But I've cut up some strawberries, I've got some fresh grapes, and I'm just going to use a little bit of a ginger sesame dressing on the greens and just barely go across the top just to have a little bit of interest to that. So that would be a great luncheon treat. All right, the crust on that is spectacular, by the way. It was so easy to do. All right, now we've got the one that was made with the Gruyere cheese and the scallions and little green peas. So this is where my spinach is going to come in. And I'm going to do a bed of the spinach. And as you can see, it's still got a little bit of life to it. I'm going to transfer this. And again, I zapped this one piece in the microwave for about 1.5 minutes. All right, so there is that, and I love the way that you know, looks on the plate. There's really nothing else you need to do. I would serve that piping hot. All right, so now we've got the little basic black dress of quiche, and that's the 4-cheese quiche that we used to serve at VeryVera. So each of these I've microwaved for about 1 minute, and you can see the differentiation in the cheeses there. So what about the crab au gratin on top of this one? Just a wonderful heaping spoonful of that on this quiche. I'm going to do a little bit more of the lemon zest, just right on top. And then I cut a little piece of lemon. So there again, that would be a beautiful luncheon treat. If you had another great big salad to go with that, that would be wonderful for dinner. All right, the next one I'm going to use the same spinach that I did for the other one, but on this one I'm going to put it on the side. So we're going to have just a little bit of spinach on the side. And one of the things about those pre-made pie crusts is a lot of times that crust will fall off, but don't fall apart about it. Just let it be part of the garnish on the top. All right, so now I'm going to take either fried bacon or either the bacon bits that I did. I'm just going to put a few of those on the side. And now we're really going to make it nice. I'm going to drizzle it with maple syrup. So that would be a wonderful brunch idea. And then finally, I've got scalloped apples. And this is where I really think about my mom. She loved cheddar cheese on top of an apple pie. So when you load this one up, and again, this would be great for brunch, make sure those apples are nice and piping hot so that your cheddar cheese will just melt away on top of this 4-cheese quiche. Beautiful presentation on there as well. And I actually sauteed some bright orange pepper and some carrot that I forgot about that I was going to put on top of the one with the peas. Wonderful vegetarian dish if you're interested in that as well. All right, so as you try these recipes, I want you to think about which one you would like to do, and the fillings can go for any of the pie crusts, but again, the one that we did in the spring form pan really has a lot of interest with the way that the crust did on the top. And did you see how easy it was? It was just so simple in the food processor. And then the one that we rolled out, just look how beautifully I was able to flute the edge of that, and it held its shape so well. So that is really great. And then if you're in a hurry, the one that is, you know, in the aluminum pan that you buy at the grocery store, you can camouflage with a little bit of your dress up. So keep those in mind. As always, our recipes are available on NBC26.tv. So don't forget, no matter what you do it in good taste. And I hope you're going to enjoy tasting each of these recipes. Come back and join me next week for another episode of The Very Vera Show.